This is another archival upload of some of my previous mix critique videos. I apologize for the vertical format that this video is about to switch to. This is 346 to 350. This mix was sent in by Kurt. It doesn't sound too bad overall, but a few things I'm noticing. I'm not really big on the guitar tone. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It feels a little thin to me. Honestly, that might be mid-range missing from the bass, because a big part of guitar tone, especially in this kind of a genre, is the way that the bass blends with the guitar. And it feels like you have a lot of sub-frequency information, so like a lot of stuff below 50 hertz, which is definitely making it feel a little dark overall, but I think you focus too much of the bass sound in the subs rather than worrying about where the bass is supposed to blend in with the guitar. You also specifically asked about the drum sound. The drums honestly don't sound great. Sounds like the drummer's not really hitting hard enough. It also sounds like the drums weren't tuned very well, so like I would retrack the drums personally, because they don't sound tuned well. It sounds like your mic placement could have been better as well, and it just feels like the drummer is not hitting nearly hard enough to really get the sound that would fit this kind of a genre. Also, the guitar is just too loud overall. That's probably part of the reason that we can't hear the bass and the drums very well. Is part of it was performance, part of it's the way you EQ things, but I think a large part of it is also just the guitars are too loud. This mix was sent in by Brock. So I was gonna say that the bass is a little too loud, but actually the bass feels like it's at a pretty good volume compared to the drums. The guitar is actually too quiet, and so are the vocals. The guitar and the vocals need to come up a lot, especially the vocals, because when the vocals actually come in, they should be like right up front, like right in your face, and they're just completely drowned out by the bass and the drums. Other than that, the drum tone's not great. I feel like the drums could have been recorded better. You might be able to fix it a little bit with processing, but in general, I'm not liking the drum sound. The bass sounds really good though. All right, man, you definitely need to spend more time on the balance, because again, the vocals are buried. The guitar is also kind of buried. The bass might even be a little too loud compared to the drums, but it's hard to tell. But like mostly the bass and drums feel good together, but guitar definitely needs to come up. Vocals need to come up. Honestly, no other tips that I could give you even matter until you get the balance right. So like you got to fix that, get the vocal sitting right, get the guitar sitting right, and then start worrying about processing, especially the drums. Like I said, I'm not big on the drum sound. You might be able to help that with processing, but we're not even going to know what really needs to be done until you get the volume levels of everything right. This mix was sent in by Owen. Dude, that guitar sound is really bad. I know you kind of mentioned that in your notes. You were asking how to clean it up, but dude, it sounds like you mic'd the back of a closed back guitar cab. Either that, or you had the microphone facing away from the speaker. If you're using a Sennheiser E906 or a Sennheiser E609, you gotta make sure it's pointing the right way. All right, dude, we can't even worry about the mix until you get the tones right. Like, the mix will only ever be as good as the source tones allow. You said you liked the guitar performance, but you don't like the guitar tone. Yeah, I don't like the guitar tone either. Like, dude, this is why you should always take a DI of guitar signals when you're recording, because of situations like this. If you take a DI in combination with the amp sound, even if the amp sound sounds like shit, if you like the performance, you can reamp that clean DI through an amp and get a better amp sound with the same performance. But dude, it really sounds like either you mic the back of a closed cab or you have the mic pointing exactly the opposite direction from the speaker. That tone's really bad. If you didn't take a DI, I'm really sorry, because there is no fixing that tone. No amount of EQ, no amount of processing is gonna fix that tone. You need to re-record that tone. This mix was sent in by Preston. All right, you should have cut this intro in half. Before everyone comes at me in the comments for talking about the songwriting in a mix critique, this guy literally specifically asked about the structure of the song. Preston, you should cut like all of these parts in half. You're playing every part twice as long as it needs to be. But honestly, dude, the mix sounds pretty good. It feels like you kind of scooped the mid-range a little bit, but you didn't really do it in a bad way. Like, it's passable. It's not destroying the song. Again, it's a little scooped. You maybe use a little bit more low mids or just low end energy in general out of the bass. Like, it feels like it's lacking a little in the low mids and the low end, but overall, like, the mid-range sounds okay. Again, a little scooped. You don't want to overdo it, but you did an okay job with that. Okay, when we get into this section, first of all, the vocals are drowned. We cannot hear the vocals. Definitely got to bring that up. You did a pretty good job with the instrumental mix, but the vocals are completely buried. Like, we need to actually be able to hear those. Part of that is just volume. You can definitely bring them up in volume, but you might need to EQ some things to let them shine through a little bit better. Also, the cleaner guitar in this section is very out of tune. Tune your fucking guitars, man. This mix was sent in by Thomas. For the night in your arms, everything is alright. Alright, so a few things I'm noticing. The intro was really, really quiet. Then when everything else started to come in, the balance was kind of off. Like, the vocals were way too far out front and the drums were kind of like right there with the vocals. I feel like the guitar could come up. You asked about the bass volume. I can like barely even make out the bass at all. I think you're overthinking that. You were worried it was too loud. I think it's not loud enough. Either that or you've EQ'd it in a way that it's not even audible in the mix. Other than that, you got some timing issues here, man. Right after the vocals cut out there, like, the performance was way off on a few things. Like, things are not lining up. Like, you gotta fix that. Love so divine in your presence, I know that you're mine. Yeah, man, so bass, I think, needs to come up a little bit. Guitar definitely needs to come up. Kick drum definitely needs to come up. It feels like your vocals and your cymbals are, like, just way too far out front compared to everything else. Yeah, man, it's mostly balance issues. Like, there's some processing stuff that we could touch on here, but until you get the balance right, it doesn't really matter what you do with the processing. So work on your balance for sure. Like, get a balance on the faders before you touch a single plugin. That's where you got to start. Once the balance is good, then you can start worrying about getting the processing right.